My daughter called me at 11 p.m. Dad, can you come get us? I asked what happened. She said her husband had thrown her and the kids out. I drove there immediately. But when I arrived, she wasn't crying, she was smiling. Then she whispered, Dad, don't go inside. You're not going to believe who is in there. My son-in-law, Greg, built his entire real estate development empire on a foundation of forged signatures, stolen credit, and pure, unfiltered arrogance. For 3 agonizing years, he treated my daughter Maya like she was a maid in her own home, constantly reminding her that the roof over her head, the car she drove, and the clothes on her back belonged entirely to him. Maya is quiet, but she misses absolutely nothing. She absorbs details like a sponge, and while Greg thought he was the smartest man in every room, Maya was quietly watching every single move he made from the sidelines. So, when my phone buzzed at 11 p.m. with her calling, I expected the usual tearful breakdown. Instead, her voice was startlingly flat. She told me Greg had just locked her and our 6-year-old twin grandsons out on the front lawn in their pajamas with nothing but the cool night air around them. I didn't hesitate. I threw on my jacket, broke every speed limit between my house and their upscale gated community, and drove with my knuckles white against the steering wheel. I pulled up ready to put Greg through a sheet of drywall. Instead, I found Maya sitting casually on the hood of my car, her feet swinging back and forth, calmly sipping from a travel mug of hot coffee while the boys slept soundly and safely in the back seat. She wasn't shedding a single tear. In fact, she was practically glowing. When I jumped out of my truck, huffing, swearing, and ready to storm the front door, she grabbed my forearm, pulled me close, and whispered those exact words. Dad, don't go inside. You're not going to believe who is in there. I froze, staring at the massive, brightly lit colonial house glowing against the dark street. Where is Greg? Did he call the cops on you? What is happening? Greg is currently passed out flat on the living room floor, Maya whispered back, her eyes dancing with quiet amusement. And sharing the living room with him is his multi-million-dollar silent investor, Richard Sterling. Or rather, Richard's very expensive corporate legal team, who are currently serving him with a complete and total asset freeze. I stopped dead in my tracks, my brain struggling to catch up. Richard Sterling? The billionaire shipping magnate? What on earth is he doing in your house at midnight? Maya pulled a sleek digital tablet out of her tote bag, tapped the screen with a practiced finger, and held it up for me to see under the amber street lamp. Greg thought he was a criminal mastermind, she explained, her voice steady and deliberate. For the last year, he's been using Maya's name as the legal owner of his primary shell company to funnel kickbacks, dodge state property taxes, and hide millions in illegal real estate acquisitions from his actual business partners. Every single shady deal, every fraudulent loan application, every hidden bank account tucked away in the Cayman Islands? It was all legally registered under my name. My jaw dropped so hard I thought it might detach. Maya. If the feds trace that back to you, you could go to prison for decades. Why would you let him do that? They aren't tracing it back to me, she interrupted smoothly, a cold, sharp smile spreading across her face. Because 2 months ago, when I finally found the incorporation documents hidden in the bottom of Greg's home safe, I didn't panic. I didn't yell. I took pictures of every single page, packed up the hard drives, and went straight to Richard Sterling himself. She swiped the tablet screen to show a digital copy of a signed, legally binding agreement between Maya and Richard Sterling's private legal firm, dated weeks ago. Richard is a ruthless businessman, Maya continued, her tone entirely composed. He discovered Greg was quietly skimming funds from their joint development projects, but he didn't want a messy, public trial that would tank his stock prices and draw unwanted media attention. So, we made a very quiet arrangement. She looked back toward the house, her gaze sharp as glass. I handed over all the original hard drives, text logs, and bank statements proving Greg's guilt. In exchange, Richard agreed to let Greg dig his own grave tonight by staging this grand, dramatic eviction. By locking me out tonight, Greg officially proved to the courts and investigators that I had no physical control, knowledge, or participation in the house while he was illegally operating his financial empire out of it. Right on cue, the heavy oak front door of the house was suddenly kicked wide open. 3 imposing men in sharp dark suits marched right past the porch lights, carrying thick leather binders and a massive stack of federal injunctions, followed closely by local sheriff deputies. What is happening right through that door right now? I breathed, watching through the living room window as Greg suddenly stumbled out in his expensive silk bathrobe, looking pale, disheveled, and utterly petrified. Richard's team is seizing every single asset Greg owns, Maya said, closing her tablet with a satisfying, sharp click. The luxury cars, the corporate accounts, the development licenses, and this very house. Greg locked us out tonight thinking he was making us homeless and helpless. By the time the sun comes up tomorrow morning, he won't even own the socks on his feet. She hopped gracefully off the hood of my car, walked around to the driver's side, and gently patted my shoulder. Move over, Dad. Let's drive home. I've got a hot breakfast to make for the boys, and Greg has a very, very long conversation with federal marshals waiting for him inside.